guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Jared at 3Cs. Today we're going to review the GoPro 11 Black Mini. We bought one and within a couple weeks we ended up buying two more. They were a really good camera for what we want to do. There's different purposes and uses. We do have GoPro 8s, we've got two. We also have a new GoPro 12. So with all the action stuff that happens around the shop here, this has been a really good camera for us because we're always looking for the best, latest content and to give you guys the best view. So GoPro 8s, we've learned they work really good on the front of the helmet here, but they add some weight to the front of it. So let's jump into the video and we'll go from there. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to compare it to the GoPro 8. I don't know where my GoPro 12 is. A little nervous about that. I think it's at the house. So here is the 11 compared to my 8, and the GoPro 12 we have is very similar size to the 8. So very similar. One thing we get nervous about is the 8 has a screen on the front of it, and even the wind socks that they make, they leave the screen exposed. So if a rock comes off a dirt bike tire in the front, or in front of the rider, it could chink that and hurt it. So far we've been really lucky with these two. One of the back screens is cracked. I think it's this one here. It's cracked a little bit. It still works, still functions. And so obviously the back of it, you'll notice right away that there's a huge screen on the 8. I can just turn it on so you can see it. It's got a good size screen, and same with the 12 that we have. So you get all of this info right there, and the only screen on the 11 Mini is going to be this little guy right here. So if I hit the info button here, there's a little button on the front. If I hit it, there, oh shoot. So we go back to the beginning here. I got excited, didn't want to wait. So right there. Tells you video, 4K, 60. And we have 5 hours left of footage, and this one's pretty much a fully charged battery. I try to keep these topped off because I never know what machine's going to show up next or where we're going to go. So try to keep a full battery, and that's maybe one of the concerns that we'll get into more here in a second. So far these cameras have been really durable for us. They're pretty much bulletproof, you know, like we just talked about. There's only one little small screen on it. It does have the lens in the front. All three of these are holding up really well for as much of abuse we put them through. So when we do dirt bike races, we do the wood style racing, so you're constantly catching roots and rocks and trees kicked up from whoever's in front of you, or you don't see the tree, you kind of smack into it. So they've taken a lot of abuse. They've been a great camera so far. Maybe some of the downfalls, we'll kind of jump right into it, is going to be the fact that it only lasts 1 hour and 6 minutes on that mode that we just showed you. It's 4K at 60 frames per second. So that's what we shoot in. We'll throw some of that footage in here now so you can see what it looks like when we're riding. I think the footage is really, really good even in that mode. I don't really know a lot about like the 5K stuff, but I feel like to render it, and it's gonna take away from this footage, take away from the record time. I'm not interested in that. We're just trying to give you guys like our point of view when we're riding dirt bikes. So we haven't really ventured into the higher settings in these cameras. We pretty much left them right out of the box. Before we get too far into the video, this is the packaging that came with the GoPro 11 Black. It was just this box. This is maybe a little bit more exciting, actually, like a little bit of a carrying case. With this like carton that they have in here, you can only fit one camera in at a time, and then there was some sort of mount similar to this, and then just a cord. So it didn't come with too much. I think they were $2.99 is what we paid per camera. I think on Black Friday around now they're doing like 50 bucks off, but we didn't want to wait. So that's what came with the cameras. Each one has their own little case, and we'll show you the 8s and what we used to do. So this is the GoPro 8 that we've been using. We still use this a lot. In fact, one of my riders still prefers the 8 over the other 11. And the 8 is nice because we get the benefit of replacing the battery. We can just like take the battery out, swap it, throw it back in, and keep riding. And we talked about getting like 1 hour and 6 minutes out of this. We get a little bit longer. You probably get like 1.5 hours, maybe sometimes 2 hours if you're really lucky. I think when the cameras are new and the batteries are brand new, you get closer to that. But to change the battery on an 8. So we use these wind socks when we're racing on the 8s because there's quite a bit of wind noise in this camera. And this cuts it out huge. It totally takes away all of that noise, and I think it protects some of the camera. So it's really easy to replace the battery on the 8. You just pull out on this little thing, and same with the 12 that we have. You just pull out, push it back in, and your SD card is also right there in that little slot. So we'll throw some footage in here right now of the GoPro 8 and how much I think it's still a really good camera. And in fact, before I actually bought the new GoPro 12, I was trying to find another GoPro 8 to go with it. And the reason is I have so many batteries for GoPro 8s. Oh, I bought this battery in 2023. We'll talk about that in a second too. I wanted to stay with the 8s because I thought the footage did everything that we needed for our channel. We're just riding dirt bikes. We're not trying to like capture a wedding or something. So we're just riding through the woods. So the GoPro 8 has been really good to us. And so I was actually looking for those before I bought the 12. And we'll kind of jump into the battery stuff now. So like I said, this lasts an hour and 6 minutes roughly for us on all three of these. So we have three of them. I'm not just buying one camera and trying it. All three of them have been pretty accurate at that. One of the things I'm concerned about is that the battery's not interchangeable. Like we can't take the battery out like I just showed on the 8. And one of the problems that I've experienced with the 8s is it's really hard to tell, but this battery's really exploded. So this is a brand new, like I showed you, it's bought in 2023. I just bought this battery. You can see how skinny this is. This is original. I don't use this battery anymore. I had to throw away like 5 of them. You can see how expanded this battery is compared to this one. It's like the whole packaging, the center of the lithium battery is just bulging out compared to this. It's super flat on both sides, still holds a really good charge. This one does not hold a charge. So obviously I've had these GoPro 8s for quite some time, but I'm going to assume even if this battery is 3 years old, is it the same battery that's in this thing? Like, is this going to explode like this? Or not explode, but expand and then not hold a charge as good? So, you know, with these GoPro 11 minis, I really feel like I have to like capture as much footage now with them because in 2 years, are we throwing these away? I don't know like what the reliability is going to be. I don't think I'm worried about like better footage in 3 years. Like I think that this is the quality that this gives us is good enough. I just feel like I don't want to run into this battery issue. So that's pretty much all I'm going to talk about the 8s is just we use them on the front of the helmet. It adds a lot of weight to the front. So if you've got this on the front of your chin bar and you're racing for 2 hours, that's a lot of extra weight pulling down on your helmet. And it kind of puts the point of view closer to the handlebar. So you see maybe a little bit less of like what we're trying to show, like the handlebars, because now the camera's closer to it. And that's kind of where this 11 comes into play. Kind of clean out some of this stuff here. Is that it's allowed us to run this camera way up here in the front of the helmet. It's clicked in now. So it brings the helmet further away from the handlebar and it gives a much better view. We really like this. So we love how this 11 mounts up in here. And you have to be really careful because not all helmets are going to accept this. So our Alpine Star helmets, we've all converted to Alpine Star here at the shop. There's like 8 of us now that are riding with the Alpine Star helmet. It's flat all the way across the front, which allows these mounts to sit on there. So I'm going to give you guys a little tutorial on those too. So like one is curved and one is flat. And we always want to use the curved mount because the front of this helmet's got a taper right there. And that gives it like a really good surface the whole way down to attach to. I brought one of my son's old helmets into the picture because I wanted to show you what it looked like where it won't work. You can kind of see the way this branded helmet, this is a fly helmet. You can see all the way down through the middle of the helmet. He never was able to wear a GoPro because the way that this mount, can't really show it that well. There you go. You know, it's not going to sit. It's going to rip right off. And then the same line kind of carries all the way through to the front of the helmet. And so this is never going to sit flat. So before you go buy a GoPro 11 mini to wear like we are showing, please make sure your helmet can accept it. So that's a really big thing for us, was finding the right helmet that had the right curve. Luckily, just because we love Alpine Star and we were going to wear these anyway, it's been able to work out for us. And what's nice with them mounted under the visor is that if somebody is roosting you coming off the rear tire, we always duck our helmet down anyway because we're trying to like not get it on our goggles. The visor really kind of helps protect that, so it keeps some of the mud off the lens as well. So that's a little bit about helmet setup. One more thing we'll talk about with helmet setup is just the different options you have with the GoPro 11 mini for mounting. So most cameras in the past have always just been a bottom mount, and that works okay, but we really are taking advantage of this new back mount. You can see how it's mounted there. And the reason why I think like the other cameras don't have it is because there's usually a really big screen right here. And so I would rather have this. Like, I don't need the screens. As long as it's recording and I know it's recording, I'll just look at it later. I'm not going to edit it on the side of the trail anyway. So what they do is they make different bases. So we needed a base that kind of put the mount up higher because we're trying to get it out of our line of sight. So I believe this is the one that came in the box over there, came with the camera. And if you put this in there, it really put it lower. So like this was going to sit with this mount, it was going to sit like another ½ an inch down in your line of sight. And that's the reason why Mark, one of my riders, he would rather wear the GoPro 8 still, because even whenever he's riding, he still thinks that this kind of gets in his line of sight. So think about that a little bit. Everybody else, we're totally cool with it. I don't notice it, especially because I found this mount that raises it. So let me show you. So this is the one that we use on all the GoPro 11 minis, and this is what came stock. So you can see how much higher that brings it up in the helmet. And because I have so much GoPro stuff, this one's never gonna work, but I'm like, I'll just show it to you guys. So this one's totally goofy. It would stick way too far out, but maybe different brands of helmet, maybe you can get away with a different mount. One thing I'll talk about real quick is whenever we got all three of these cameras, I had one that we used for a couple weeks, and then I went ahead and bought 2 more right away. And one of the 2 extra cameras that I bought, we'll put some footage in here now, it got super hot when I charged it for the first time. I was running around the shop doing stuff, and I came back to my office, and I guess I can show you. You charge them in this little door right here. So it's just USB-C, and then your memory card is in there. I always buy like the biggest memory card I can, so I have like 8 to 10 hours of footage capturing, because I don't want to be halfway through a ride and be like, oh, you're out of footage. So I buy the biggest card you can. But this thing, I don't know which one, it got so hot while it was charging, I had to unplug it, and the footage will show this. I think this screen stayed on, and I couldn't get it to turn off no matter what button I pushed. I literally just let it sit in the middle of my desk, and I let it sit there until it died. Like, it had to completely kill itself. So it took like an hour and a half for it just to like sit there and die. And then I let it sit for like a day or 2, and then I recharged it, and it's been fine ever since. So, a little side note, I don't know the glitches that everybody else is experiencing, but that was the one that I ran into, is that it just got super hot, and I have no idea why. Another thing with these is you can use the GoPro app. I'm using my phone to record, so I can't show it to you and swipe, but it does connect to the app. It's been really good to me. I can connect all 3 to my phone. The app lets you connect to multiple cameras. I think I actually have like 6 or 7 GoPros connected to my phone. So you just swipe over, select the camera, and you can download the stuff right onto your phone. I still do a lot of editing on my Mac computer, so I just take the disc out and slide it into the SD card slot and transfer the footage that way. I'm not a big app guy. I think I use the app just to make sure the camera angle looks good, because that is one thing on the Mini you don't have, is on these screens on the back of here, you could always like tip it down real quick, make sure that you liked the angle of the footage. And so my recommendation is, when you first get the camera, go out and do a couple different recordings and try to find the angle that works best for your helmet. We have this one super tight, so I know that that's the angle I always want to be. But if this was tipped down or tipped up, you might catch some of the visor, or you might see too much of the handlebar, and you're not going to see the trail in front of you. So really important to kind of memorize and practice with where you want to mount this, so you're always capturing like the best point of view. A couple of things these cameras don't have that I don't really miss is there's no picture mode. I don't care. I don't use my GoPro to take pictures. We just want point of view footage with them. And then I have the cell phone and stuff that we take still pictures with. I've never thought like I'm going to buy a GoPro to go take pictures with it. I don't think that's the whole point of the GoPro. There's no GPS in these, so if you're trying to like do the time lapse and the recording, you can't do that. And they don't make like a media mod. So like right here, this is a media mod that goes on my GoPro 8s, like this. I don't know the 8, oh right here. So here's the 8. This could slide into here, and I could use this media mod to connect a microphone into it, which I'm using on my phone right now. So you can't use this kind of camera for that, but I think the audio is really good. So as you've watched the GoPro 11 Mini footage in this video, and I'll put some in right now of this 11 Mini with the audio going so you can hear it. 11 Mini action. I think it sounds really good. There's not a ton of wind noise. I think they did a better job compared to the 8s of getting rid of some of that wind noise. It was really, really bad on the 8s. You'd be riding through a field and all you hear was just the swishing sound of the wind. So that's why we invested in these little cloths. They're really cheap. They fit really good and they protect it. So that's one thing is I don't think you want to wrap this camera because everybody claims that these get hot, but we're constantly moving. When we're racing, you know, the airflow is coming around this camera. We're not just setting this like on a park bench and asking it to record like a time lapse. So if you have a different use for these, you know, 11 minis, you might want to look into the overheating issue. We've never had this overheat, and the only time it's actually overheated is, like I said, whenever it was charging that one time. Ever since then, they've never had an issue. Pretty much the only thing that I would really want to change on the GoPro 11 Mini would be just more runtime, and I think that's all of us always wanting more, right? So if we could get 2 hours out of this camera, I would be so happy, because most of our races that we run in Hare Scrambles are a 2-hour race. So we get about an hour of footage, which is usually about when he stops for gas anyway. So if we really wanted to, I can just, it takes like 2 seconds. As we're putting gas in his bike, I can just slide this one down and out. I'm doing it with one hand. And I can just click another GoPro up in. So I could capture the majority of his race with 2 different cameras. But man, it would be so cool if they could get this camera to just record for 2 hours, which we'll see what happens in the future. Or give me the ability to like replace the battery. So if there was a way to take this technology where you just slide a new battery in, I would really enjoy that. So my only real downfall that we've experienced with this camera is just only records for an hour. Thank you guys for watching the video. Hope you found it helpful. And so if you are into action sports, or you do any kind of riding, snowmobiling, dirt bikes, point of view, like you're riding a pedal bike, skateboard, any of that kind of stuff where you're putting it on your helmet or on your head, I think this is a really good purchase. We've done a lot with these cameras in the last 3 months, and we'll continue to use them. Very excited for next summer's events. So if you like watching action sports stuff, please consider subscribing to our channel. Enjoy the ride, and we'll see you on the trail.